Hey everyone, my name is Ben Bolger and welcome to the Expat Blueprint, the channel educating expats to financial freedom. So today brings us to episode number 5, and it's an important one. We're building on from last week's episode where we went through the importance of living within your means, which, as we said, is rule number 1 if we're going to be successful financially. Don't get me wrong, I'm human as well. I get we only live once, and I'm a big believer that life is for living. And I've said numerous times, my goal isn't to turn you into a monk or a program robot who just exists to save. However, I am here to be the voice on your shoulder to help you make a few better choices and build in some structure into the way you live your life. Do you ever get to the end of the month and think, where the hell did my money go? Or, I earn really good money each month, but I don't feel like I have anything to show for it. Well, you're probably not the only one. For us to change this, we need to properly understand what's coming in and what's going out every month. The simplest and most effective way to do this is via a budget. Now, before you run for the hills, I want to make a few things clear. Learning how to budget doesn't have to be difficult or tedious, and you certainly don't have to be good at maths to nail it. Budgeting doesn't mean you can't spend your money on things you enjoy or the things that are most important to you. Budgeting isn't just for people who are bad with their money. And finally, budgeting doesn't require hours and hours of your time. It does, however, require you to stop burying your head in the sand and believing you can easily live life without a budget and be successful with your money. Albert Einstein famously said, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Well, today I'm going to help you understand what a budget is, why it's important, and finally give you my tips on how you can start to build one into your life. Okay, so what is a budget? Now, I'm pretty sure that anyone listening to this podcast has heard of a budget, and the word probably is going to make us all feel quite different. There'll be some people who absolutely love tracking every dirham, dollar, euro on spreadsheet upon spreadsheet, and there'll be others who just cringe and shudder just listening to the word. So obviously a budget is a way to plan how we want to spend our income in a given period of time. Typically, people would choose to do this on a weekly or monthly basis as it's more manageable to control than looking at your expenses annually. Unless you work on a commission basis or you're self-employed, more often than not, your income is going to be relatively fixed. Therefore, when budgeting, a lot of the focus will tend to be placed on your expenditure. The idea is to try and ensure that your monthly living costs, things like your food, your utility bills, your rent, the things that you enjoy doing for fun, such as going to the gym, going out for dinner, going to the cinema, and most importantly, your savings target can all be comfortably funded from your income. Now, this is often easier said than done. What stereotypically happens is that we pay for our fixed bills as we can't really get away with skipping these unless we fancy kipping on the street. We then enjoy our lives and do all the cool things we want to do, which then means that our saving target suffers, or even worse, we enjoy ourselves too much and then we start to borrow to fund our lifestyle. How many times have you committed to saving a certain amount and then gone, "Oh, sod it, I'll catch up next month"? Well, setting a budget can ensure we don't have that conversation with ourselves again. Now, it's often people automatically write off factoring time into their week to review a budget without giving it much thought. I think this is because realistically, it's because it forces us to make a few choices that we probably would rather avoid. Putting off budgeting is sort of like ignoring the engine light that comes up on your car. If you address the light straight away, then there's a good chance that something can be repaired quite quickly and inexpensively. But if you choose to continue to drive around regardless of the light, there's a good chance that your engine's going to overheat and explode, and it's going to end up costing you so much more in the long run. So yes, budgeting can sometimes feel a little bit tedious, especially at the beginning. But once you start factoring it into your life and stay on top of it, then the benefits far outweigh the extra admin you have to put in. The benefits of budgeting are endless, but some of the obvious ones are things like finally having control over your money and being intentional about how you spend it. Getting to the end of the month and thinking, I spent my money on things that actually have a purpose, as opposed to spending aimlessly with nothing to show. Spending aimlessly only leads to frustration and anxiety. You get down on yourself about overspending, and then you start worrying about how you're going to fund future expenses. Budgeting gives you clarity, which will eventually take away the worry. This in turn hopefully means that starting to talk about money becomes a lot easier. Being able to communicate effectively about money with your partner is important in a relationship, and a budget will make those conversations a lot less intimidating. It makes your headline goals easier to track. If your goal is to be financially independent by 55, then by budgeting, you will know how much you're roughly going to need at 55 and also how much you've got each month to contribute to your goal. It also makes paying down debt, saving for emergencies and investing a lot easier too. Budgeting can have such a positive impact in your life, but you're going to need to lean into it and make it part of your life. So how do you get started with budgeting? Well, I'm about to give you the 10 steps for you to go through, which will put you on track to gaining back control of your money. Number 1 is know your why. I've spoken about this on numerous occasions already, but it's the biggest reason why people don't stick to a budget. Work out why a budget is important to you. Are you fed up with your financial situation, or do you feel like you could be doing more? Will it bring much needed headspace? Will it organise your life? Will it bring you closer to your financial goals? Who will it benefit? Will it lead to a better future for you, your partner, your children? If you're struggling to find a why, then think about the alternative of not doing anything and continuing as you are. Will that produce the results you want? If not, then your why is that you want a better future for yourself. Number 2 is spend less than you earn. As simple as it sounds, this is the headline objective. Financial freedom requires you to live within your means, and having a budget will highlight the areas which need to be addressed. In last week's podcast, I gave you all the key benefits and a number of life hacks to successfully live within your means. If you haven't watched it or listened to it, go check it out. Number 3, write down a list of all your expenses. This is the first thing you need to do when constructing a budget. Write down everything you spend your money on during a month. Things like housing, utilities, groceries, your savings, entertainment and childcare. We need to get a monthly figure of all the key things you spend your money on. Be honest with yourself. If you're currently getting your nails done once a week or you're at the pub twice a week, put it in there. We need an accurate picture of what your life looks like now. It might be helpful to go back over bank statements or receipts to see how much things like weekly shopping bills or your average phone bill is. Number 4, be proactive, not reactive. Now you know all your expenses, that's the last time we visit your past. It's important to realise a budget should be forward looking and not backward looking. It's a plan forward for the month ahead and not a debrief for the month that just happened. We don't want you spending all your time looking back at your month and trying to work out what happened. Instead, let's look at next month and work out what we're going to do. Number 5, map it out. Unless you're superhuman, trying to do a budget in your head is pretty much impossible. Your budget is also something you will need to refer to during the month. You need to write out your budget, whether it's on a spreadsheet, using an application on your phone, or just a good old-fashioned pen and paper. Number 6, give your money a job. So here's the important part. A few days before a new month starts, I want you to look at your income and give every single dollar, dirham, euro a job. Start by paying yourself first. That means knowing exactly how much you want to save and allocate those funds to that. Then you work out how much you spend on bills and allocate towards that. Moving on to essentials such as groceries, travel, medicine and childcare and allocate towards that. And then finally allocate towards your discretionary spending. How much you want to spend on entertainment and socialising. If you can, build in some slack or a small buffer because life isn't straightforward and having room to manoeuvre does help. But by the end of the month, your account should be run down to zero because every dollar has been spent. But within that expenditure, you have put away savings for yourself, taken care of your monthly bills, and hopefully enjoyed yourself too. Number 7, split your money into different accounts. Having different accounts or pots for different jobs will make things easier for you to manage. For example, have one for savings, one for your bills, and one for your everyday spending. As soon as you get paid, you move the money for your saving and your bills into separate accounts. You then spend everything that's what's left for your everyday spending as per the previous step. Please remember to always pay yourself first into your savings pot. This is essential. We will discuss in later weeks where we keep this money and how we can utilise it better. 8, review your budget weekly. Spend 10 minutes each week going over what you spent your money on. If it helps, set a reminder on your phone or diarise 10 minutes into your weekly calendar. When looking at your weekly expenditure, it will help by dividing your monthly allocation for each category by roughly 4, and it will give you a weekly amount you should spend. If you've allocated 2,000 dirhams a month for food, but on week 1 you spent 1,200 dirhams, then you know there's an issue. Number 9 is roll with the punches. Remember, life doesn't always line up exactly how you want it to. If things happen which have forced you to overspend in one area, then just assess where you are that week and cut spending in another area. Be prepared to be flexible and make changes. And number 10, don't go from 0 to 100. There's no point setting a budget that is super restrictive from week 1. Why? Because life is for living and should be enjoyed. A budget does create structure, but build in the areas that allow you to have fun. Secondly, you just won't stick to it. Having a restrictive budget that means you'll quit after 2 weeks is useless. Think of budgeting like exercise. If you aren't breaking a sweat, you aren't doing enough. But if you're giving yourself a heart attack, then you're obviously doing too much. Find that happy medium and smile, knowing that you're taking back control. I really hope this helps because it's such an important part of your journey. I think by changing the way you think about budgeting will be a huge difference. It's the same as exercise. The thought of going for a run or going to that group fitness class is often so much worse than actually doing it. And the feeling you get when you have done it makes it totally worth it. Don't build it up in your head. Just give it a go, and the more consistent you are with it, the easier it will become. Exactly like exercise. For that reason, I've decided to create a budgeting template to help you on your way. If you want a copy of the Expat Blueprint budgeting tool, then click on the link in the show notes or head over to the website and go and download it. If you're enjoying these videos and podcasts, please remember to give us a review, like and share our stuff. We really appreciate your support and it will mean our message reaches so many more expats. I look forward to seeing everyone next week, and remember to always dream big.